exactly with the correct amount.
Rocket Summit Fire!
Brutal sound. That was All-Consuming Fire by War of Ages. Their new album, Arise and Conquer, was recently released through Facedown Records. Check out the band's music at myspace.com/War of Ages. You can order War of Ages CDs and merchandise by logging on to facedownrecords.com. Catch the band playing live on the 10 for 10 tour. For details, go to myspace.com 10 for 10 tour. That's right, 10 bands playing live for $10. Hi, DJ Tina here, host of HMTV Canada Easing. With me today is Leroy, vocalist for War of Ages. Hi Leroy, congratulations on the new release, Arise and Conquer, which will be released through Facedown Records on July 22nd. Can you tell us about Rise and Conquer? These songs are very intense when dealing with issues coming out of the dark and into the light.
Well, sorry, I was walking out of the midst of a bunch of people. I was trying to find a quiet place so I could hear you better.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, the Rise and Conquer album, that basically was the first album where we kind of sat down as a band and said, okay, what kind of musical direction do we want to go in, and what kind of lyrical direction do I feel like I'm led in? And basically what we had come up with is we wanted to write an album that, that dealt with a lot of the feelings and a lot of the things that we've gone through as a band and as individuals as well as a band. And a lot of the things lyrically that I'm writing about on there is a lot of my own experiences of life and what's happened and whatever else and what's transpired over the years, and so with a lot of that, it's dealing with all the crap of this world and things that have happened and like from drug addiction to, other types of addiction that varied in dealing with issues of being kidnapped and whatnot. But the overwhelming basic premise of the songs is the fact that this world sucks. However, that doesn't mean that we have to fall trapped to it and victim of it. So that's kind of what Arise and Conquer is pretty much about.
What motivates the band to write these incredible lyrics? Are they based on issues in society or past experiences that any of the members have been through or gone through?
We all are Christians in this band, and we all believe that, whether you're agnostic or whether you're a Christian or whether you're Buddhist or whatever else, it's going to affect your writing. It's going to affect how you view the world around you. So that kind of shows premise through our music, as far as lyrically. I mean, we all believe a certain way. Me, as the writer, I believe a certain way, and my experiences show through for that, and therefore that affects the writing style that we have. Now, musically, I mean, a lot of the bands we listen to are Christian bands. I mean, from Behemoth to Slayer to, that's where we kind of get our musical direction from, and I've said this before, but like, a Christian, power chord isn't any different than a secular power chord. Mm-hmm. However, when it comes through lyrically, that's kind of where the spiritual side of things are kind of showed through a little bit more. Was that answering your question?
Yeah, it does. So who writes War of Ages songs, and do the band members contribute their ideas to the lyrics?
Yeah, we all kind of contribute pretty, we're all very vocal about, as far as what we feel in a song, where the direction's going. Primarily the writers are Steve, our lead guitar player, and myself. Steve writes a lot of the riffing and whatnot, and writes all the solos and all the leads and stuff. However, as far as direction of song, I kind of have to take that role because of musically I have to figure out where I'm leading the song lyrically. And sometimes that calls for a more aggressive part, and sometimes that calls for a lighter part, and it's like, with any kind of writing style, you're a poet. So you basically have to find the dynamics in the song, and as far as with your writing lyrically, and work the music to follow the dynamics of your writing. So, I mean, with that being said, I mean, we all contribute, but Steve and I do most of the writing primarily. However, we definitely have other people like Alex, our drummer, and our bassist and stuff, have their 2 cents as well.
While rehearsing, do the band members like to experiment and try new things to their sound, and do they incorporate these new ideas into their songs?
Absolutely, yeah. We all have different styles that we like, and we kind of cater to more so than others. And I mean, we're always that's one thing I love about our band, War of Ages, that none of us are thick-headed. Though we can be at times, but none of us are generally thick-headed. We like to experiment. We like to kind of go, okay, well, this is what I feel like we should do with this album. Here's where my lyrics are flowing lyrically. Well, awesome, so we should maybe write a little faster on this song, Or let's write this one a little more emotional and slower. Let's have this one drum-driven, let's have this one more guitar-driven. It's cool because everybody kind of works together. Nobody's like, no, I don't want to do that because it doesn't showcase my talent. So... I mean, we're all pretty level-headed dudes.
Are there any spiritual influences that inspires the band to write these incredible songs? And how many fans can relate to certain songs that's given them self-worth and confidence because they experience the negative forces in their life?
I mean, you can definitely with each one of the songs that we have. Not all of them have to do with straight up, Christianity or they're lyrically driven, by our faith or whatever else. I mean, that shines through just because that's who I am. What's kind of been the driving force of my life. However, a lot of the issues that I deal with aren't just about that kind of stuff. It's more about being a leader in your home, being a leader in this world. Men rising up, women rising up, and actually making a difference in life. I mean, before I was even a Christian myself, I decided to make, a stance for my own life and, try to be a better role model for my family. That I had nothing to do with God, and then later on, I was affected by, the spiritual side of things where I felt like, okay, who is this God character? What's this all about? So it was really the decision I made to just make a change in my life first, and then later on it turned into something else. So, I mean, really, yes, lyrically, I am, vocal about spiritual side of things, just because that's what I am and who I am, but I also don't put all the demeaning, all the, every single thing into that, because I believe that you as a person have to make a decision anyway.
After viewing a few of your videos, All-Consuming Fire and The Strength Within, you can feel the intense emotion the band performs in their hardcore, brutal sounds, and in both vocals and instrumentals. Who helped produce these videos, and will the band be producing more videos like these from Arise and Conquer?
I would hope so. The videos that were done by these ones were done by Andy Reel. He produced them and shot them. He also did our Pride of the Wicked video, Strength Within. So he's a good director. We love his vision, and we kind of like how he can find what we do best. He's worked with us with enough videos, and he kind of knows what we're comfortable with, what we're uncomfortable with. Through trial and error, through the 3 videos we've done with them. So I would expect more videos. I personally, we as a band, I should say, love the All-Consuming Fire video. And the reason why is because we feel like it captures more of who we are as a band. Where we're less acting, and it's more of that's a real show.
Okay.
And that's, like what you saw there is what you get with War of Ages, as you come to a show, which that's kind of the reason why we started a band, was to play in front of kids. So to do that, that's in our element, we feel like. We're through the flames with a bunch of fire around us and whatnot. That was fun, and it was a lot of fun to shoot. But it still there's that little side of being a little uncomfortable because it was staged, more so than the All-Consuming Fire live video.
Has there been any challenges in laying the song tracks down to the recording process for this album?
For Arise and Conquer?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we because we had a producer on this album, the pre-production side of things was a lot more important than we had with the past 2 albums. To where we had to write the songs prior, have them somewhat recorded as best we could, turn them in, and then they were reviewed by another person, which our producer Tim Lambesis, and then he would kind of be like, okay, well, I like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, and we would have to then take the song and reconstruct it, and so I mean that was a challenge because anytime you have an outsider looking in on your music and telling you how to write stuff, it's never always easy.
Right.
Kind of like, okay, well, we were kind of visioning this for that song, and he's like, well, that doesn't really work out too well, and then we have to trust him as our producer to kind of be like, okay, well, let's do this, let's try this, you know, and that was a little challenging, but this album that we're currently working on, we have a new program on our computer that allows us to have all the parts to be heard, and you know, and you're able to kind of get a clear vision of the actual song. So we were trying to fix up those challenges that happened on the last album.
Okay. How did War of Ages land the opportunity to work with Tim Lambesis and his partner Daniel Castleman for Arise and Conquer? Did they complete both the mixing and the mastering of this album?
Yeah, they the way it happened was, it's kind of funny. My wife mentioned, why don't you have Tim do your album, you know, produce it and stuff like that. Because we were talking about having the singer of Bleeding Through, Brian Chapetti, I can't even remember, I can't say his last name right, but Brandon, he's a great dude, and we had just done a tour with him, and he was stoked about maybe trying and producing our album. You know, that kind of fell through, so then we were like, well, you know, I don't know who else could do it, and then we ended up talking to, my wife mentioned, like I said, Tim Lambesis, and I talked to our label and our management, and they're like, all right, let's see if we can do it, and he was stoked about it and ready to do it, so it kind of just fell into our lap, you know, and Daniel Castleman, we had no idea he was going to be a part of it. We just met him upon arriving at the studio, and he ended up proving to be a force to reckon with. He was awesome.
That's great. It's fantastic how things worked out that way.
Yeah.
Who is the incredible artist that designs War of Ages album cover art and merchandise?
All the credit of that would have to go to Dave Quizzle. Dave Quizzle is an amazing artist. I grew up listening to his bands. I'm very, very influenced by his writing and, you know, from his bands, and he's maybe probably him and his brother Dan are probably the main reason why I'm even in music today. The fact, I'm not saying that's why we have him work on our albums. He does incredible work. You know, that just happened to work out that way. But to actually be like, this is my, you know, someone I looked up to, and now he does all the War of Ages albums, you know, and merchandise. I'm pretty proud to say it.
Okay. Now, is metal a popular genre in Erie, Pennsylvania, or more of an underground music scene?
Well, Erie's always been a hardcore town. It's more along the lines of your old school hardcore bands like Madball, Think of It All, you know, Ex-Disciple X. You know, it's always been the Earth Crisis realm, and I mean, it's always been a hardcore scene. Metal has just kind of popped up in the last like 6 or so years. You know, though, through the popularity of the music in general has risen, the Erie scene has kind of risen as well. So with the help of bands like, you know, of course, War of Ages and a couple other bands, local bands like Angora, and I believe there's a few others, Taste of Steel, stuff like that. There's, you know, the scene has kind of grown more along the metal side of things. But I would have to say primarily a hardcore town is what it's been for the past 20 years, 15, 20 years.
So how is the 10 for 10 tour going? Is the band receiving a great turnout of fans attending?
Yeah, I mean, it's going really well. We weren't sure what to expect originally. You know, as far as like for the turnouts for War of Ages. I mean, considering we're the only metal band, let alone Christian metal band on this tour, and the fact that we've had an overwhelming great response for most of the shows, and you know, and we've done very well overall. We're you know, proud to actually say, hey, well, I mean, we can hang. That's cool.
The one thing I find is that there's a lot of kids that are into Christian metal bands, especially in Canada anyway. I don't know about the USA. But in Canada, it's one of popular death metal, extreme death metal bands. A lot of Christian metal bands are getting noticed in Canada, and it's more of an underground scene here, but the kids really do dig them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what comes to mind as being the most memorable, funny, crazy, or favorite music venue, festival, or concert for War of Ages, and why?
I would have to say, when we first started touring, we played this place, I believe it was in El Paso, Texas, and there's this guy named Jukebox Joey, and we drove up to this venue. Now, mind you, this is like one of our first tours. We drove up to this venue, and we're across the street in this big parking lot of this school, and it was like 3 bands. You know, we're all just chilling outside, waiting for this venue owner to get there and open up his venue. Well, across the street, we see this long, gray-haired dude come running out of his building, and he starts screaming at us to duck down in the ditch. and that the government are coming up from the sewers and they're going to attack us.
Oh my God.
We're already like, what has just happened? You know, what did we get ourselves into? Well, it turns out this guy's just kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he had, like, he walked up to us, he had high tops with no shoelaces with the toes completely cut out of him. You know, he was just, had the most crazy stories. He already knew all of our fathers. He said he used to ride helicopter rides with all of our dads, smoking Cuban cigars up above New York City. You know, so he just had these wild stories. We kind of listened to him for most of the night. And then when we played our show, it was an amazing show. A lot of kids came out. It was a lot of fun. He would try to grab our guitars and play the songs for us.
Wow.
I mean, it was very interesting. He was a very interesting guy. I would have to say that was the most exciting, craziest show we've ever played.
Sounds pretty
more
wild.
so than the ones we played in front of lots and lots of kids.
Yeah, that sounds like it's really freaky. Stuff like that happens. Have you been able to tour Europe yet?
Yeah, we actually went over there last year for the annual Persistence tour with Sick of It All and Terror and stuff like that. And then we're actually going back over there in September with Earth Crisis, Sworn Enemy, Waking the Cadaver, and a few other bands. So,
what's your favorite place to play in Europe?
Well, I would have to say Switzerland. I would have to say.
Very nice country. Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. It was the best show we had over there, and people were awesome. The city was beautiful. So I'd have to say that by far.
I totally agree. It's one of the best bands come out of Switzerland as well.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Okay, so what's the emphasis and main focus for the remainder of 2009? Is the band touring, or are they going to be working on new material for another album?
We're going to be doing both. We have a few tours lined up, like I said, the one in Europe after this one, and then we have something at the end of the year in December that we're coming up on, and but other than that, we're planning on recording a new album, maybe end of November, early December, and then we're going to finish up the writing and stuff. So it's kind of a combination of both those things.
Well, do you ever take a break?
No, this is our full-time job, so no, we don't.
Well, you got to party like rock stars sometime and take at least 2 weeks off.
Yeah, at least, yeah. Like, we got to somewhat party like rock stars, I guess.
It's good for the band, that's for sure. Okay.
Yep.
So before we wrap up our interview, do you have any shout-outs to friends or fans?
Sure. I mean, to anybody that's come out on this 10 for 10 tour, fan or whatever, you know, we appreciate it. Like, just because of this tour has been kind of wrapped around, you know, the idea of the kids and how high ticket prices and whatnot have affected, you know, kids' pockets and parents' pockets or whatever, and the fact that 10 bands like this could come together and say, you know, and kind of be like, we don't care about the money, let's just go there, let's provide the kids with a good show for a cheap ticket price is awesome. So my kudos go out to the kids that have supported it, because it really kind of made the industry people go, wow, this is actually working out, this is actually doing well, we're very happy about this, you know, and it puts more emphasis on them opposed to the bands. So just thank you for anybody who supported it and came out to it.
Do you know another great thing? There's a lot of kids that can't get on the internet and they don't have credit cards to buy the merchandise and the CDs. So these tours are fantastic just for that purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Leroy, for taking the time for this interview. And I want to send thanks to Jerry and Face Down Records. Horns high, because you rock.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking the time.
No problem.